The more you know ComfyUI, the faster you work. Let's pick up where we left off last time and continue leveling up our basics. Today we're covering 3 things you'll use all the time: node properties, subgraphs, and LoRas. So stick around, because by the end of this video you'll have all 3 in your toolkit. Let's get into it. Start by opening the image-to-image workflow from last session. Once it's loaded, click on any node and you will see a small toolbar appear at the top of it. Let's go through each icon from left to right. The first one is the delete button, which looks like a small bin. And if you accidentally hit it and remove a node, don't panic. Just press Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on a Mac and it will come right back. That shortcut works for pretty much any mistake you make, so keep it in mind. The second button opens the node info panel. A sidebar pops up showing you what the node does and what each of its properties controls. This is quite useful when you're working with an unfamiliar node. Though keep in mind that not every node will have this filled in, since it's up to the developer to actually add that information. Inside that sidebar, you'll see 3 tabs: Parameters, Info, and Settings. The Parameters tab mirrors everything you see in the nodes dropdown. So for something like the K-sampler node, all its settings are right there in the sidebar as well, just as an alternative way to access them. And the Settings tab is where you get the full node state controls, which we will get into in a second. You can also change the color of the node here or in the toolbar on the circle icon. And color coding is actually more useful than it sounds. Marking your positive prompt node in green and your negative prompt in red, for example, makes it a lot easier to find things on a busy canvas. So it's a good habit to get into. And you can also pin the node to the canvas so it can't be moved around by accident. A small pin icon will appear in the node header, so you can always tell which ones are locked. Now, node state has 3 options: normal, bypass, and mute. All 3 are only available in the sidebar, but if you just need bypass quickly, there's an icon for that right in the toolbar as well. Bypass skips the node entirely and passes the data straight to the next connected node. This is handy when you just want to test the workflow without a specific processing step. Just bypass it instead of deleting it. Mute stops the workflow at that node. Think of it as a stop sign that lets nothing through. Back in the sidebar, you can also rename any node. Type in a name and it appears right above the node on the canvas, which helps a lot when your workflow starts getting complex. Hit the 3-dot menu in the node bar for a few more options. You can minimize a node down to just its name to declutter the canvas. You can also do this by clicking the small gray circle next to the node name directly on the canvas. Now, the most powerful option in that menu is Convert Selection to Subgraph. A subgraph lets you collapse multiple nodes into a single compact node. And here's how it works. Select all the nodes you want to group, then either group them, which just keeps them movable as a unit, or convert them to a subgraph, which packages everything into one single node. To get inside it and see the full internal workflow, either double-click on the empty area of the node or hit the square icon in the top right corner. To exit and go back to your main workflow, just click your workflow name in the navigation bar at the top. By default, the subgraph only shows a few properties from the nodes inside it, highlighted in purple. To control what's visible, click the subgraph and select Edit Subgraph Widgets from the toolbar. This opens the sidebar showing every property inside the subgraph. Toggle the ones you want visible and reorder them by dragging the 6-dot handle on the right. The subgraph also has input and output connectors on the left and right sides. So for example, if you want to route the image output out of the subgraph, you cut the Save Image node, remove it from inside, and expose the VAE decode output instead. Now you can connect a Save Image node outside the subgraph, or branch it into multiple outputs. Right-click any of those connection slots and rename or delete them. You can also nest subgraphs inside other subgraphs, which lets you build really layered modular workflows. The navigation bar at the top always shows you where you are so you don't get lost. If you ever need to go back to individual nodes, select Unpack Subgraph, and everything inside will expand back out onto the canvas. And one of the most useful things you can do with subgraphs is publish them to your node library. Once you do that, it becomes a reusable blueprint. You can search for it and drag it into any workflow just like a regular node. But even without publishing, you can already just copy and paste the subgraph like any other node. So if you want to run the same chunk of workflows multiple times with different inputs, you just duplicate it and wire it up. Build something complex once and reuse it every time you need it again. And before we get into LoRas, just a quick one. If you're running into limitations with your local hardware, check out RunPod in the description below. It lets you run your ComfyUI workflows in the cloud, so you're not limited by your GPU. And using the link also supports the channel. So what even is a LoRa? Think of it like a filter you put on top of your base model. The base model handles the image generation, but on its own it has a pretty general style. A LoRa is a small add-on file that's been trained on a specific look, subject or aesthetic, and it nudges the model to generate in that direction. The easiest way to understand it is with an example. Same base model, same prompt, but with a LoRa trained on the claymation style of Wallace and Gromit, the output looks completely different. The characters come out with a chunky handmade clay look that is instantly recognizable. And because LoRas are small add-on files rather than full models, they are easy to download, swap out and experiment with. That's really what makes them so popular. To use a LoRa in ComfyUI, the node you need is called Load LoRa. It connects to your model output from the load checkpoint node and sits in the workflow before the case sampler. You pick your LoRa file from the dropdown, and there's a strength slider that controls how strongly it affects the output. A value of 1 applies it at full intensity. Dial it down to something like 0.6 or 0.7 if you want a more subtle blend with the base model's style. For the node to find your files, your base model checkpoint goes in the checkpoints folder as usual, and your LoRa file, which will be a safe tensor file, goes into the LoRa folder. ComfyUI scans that folder automatically, so once the file is in there, it'll show up in the dropdown. And if you've just added a new LoRa and it's not showing up yet, just click on the node and press the R button. That refreshes the folder and should appear straight away. So let's grab some LoRas. Head over to CivitAI, which is the main place people share and download LoRa models. Go to the Models section, filter by type, and select LoRa from the dropdown. The most important filter to set is the base model. Make sure it matches the checkpoint you are using in your workflow. For example, SDXL, Flux, or Quen. Using a LoRa trained on the wrong base model won't work, so always check this before downloading. After downloading your LoRa, take a look at the model page. Most LoRas include notes from the creator with things like the recommended strength value, which sampler and scheduler works best, or trigger words you need to add to your prompt. It can save you a lot of trial and error, so it's worth reading. If you're running ComfyUI through Stability Matrix, there's an easier way actually. Just open the Model Browser tab inside Stability Matrix. It's connected directly to CivitAI, so you can search, filter and download without leaving the app. And it puts the files in the right folder automatically. Now, one of the best things about LoRas is that you can stack them. For that we will use a custom node called LoRa Stack by rgthree, which we installed in the previous video. Instead of chaining multiple nodes together, this one node lets you load up to 4 LoRas at once, each with its own strength slider. It keeps things clean and makes it a lot easier to experiment. Just be careful not to set the strength values too high when stacking. It can break your output quite fast and you will start seeing weird artifacts. Start low, play around with it, and adjust from there. So that's all for today's video, and if this was helpful, drop a like, subscribe, or leave a comment with a question you might have. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Cheers.